So we sort of started in the reverse. Welcome.
It's okay. It's all good.
But we have so much to talk about.
Yeah.
I would first love to talk about, obviously, you have really created a name for yourself in this space. You have a massive following. You have YouTube. You have programs. You have your space in Portugal. I'm always super interested, especially with people that have a spiritual career path. Like, what sort of brought you into that world? Like, is it something you grew up around? Did it just come to you? I find it super fascinating.
It's a bit of both. Like, I was born into just like a regular family. Mm-hmm. I used to see ghosts a lot, like in my house, which was terrifying. And I grew up in like a pretty haunted house. There was a lot of activity there. Like,
whoa.
Yeah, you'd go into the
How
kitchen.
young were you when you were seeing?
I would say probably around 4 or 5 is when I really started to notice that I was like, oh, there's like a man in the window every night who has like this dog and he's like hanging upside down, like watching me sleep. And then I would like talk to my parents about it and they'd be like, the fuck are you talking about? But then, sorry, can I swear on here?
Yeah,
I didn't even think
of
about
course.
that. And what's crazy is that my brother was in that bedroom before I was. So I have an older brother. And when he was in there, he used to wake up to these dogs in his room all the time. And he'd be like freaking out about the dogs. So then when I was born, my brother moved into a different room and I went into that room. And that's where I started seeing this man in the window and he had a dog.
Is he a scary man?
No, scary is the wrong word. I think the presence is unsettling when you're just like, why is there somebody there? But it wasn't like a malicious energy. I actually think in hindsight, it was probably some type of like guardian or some type of, protective entity, or even the word entity is very scary to a lot of people, but just like a being.
Yeah.
And it's a full spectrum. Like you have people who are one way and, you know, a little darker, and then you've got people who are not. I say people, but I mean like these energies. Mm-hmm. So yeah, anyways, this was like a nice protective energy, but it was still a little unsettling. And then that later developed into just a lot of activity in the house where you'd be like, I'd always be really uncomfortable going into my basement by myself just because the energies down there were like a bit heavier. Ooh. Or there was more presence down there.
Oh my God.
And as a kid, like you don't necessarily know how to interpret that. So you just automatically jump to fear because you're sensing something outside of you and you can't see it and you don't know what's going on. So, and we've all felt that, like you walk into a space and you kind of like get the chills. Or you're just like, ugh, I need to get out of here. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's like a bad thing. It's just like your extra sensory perception is activated and you're like, oh, this is a weird experience for me. I don't know how to interpret this. So we automatically typically drop into fear, right? It's a self-defense mechanism. Yeah. So anyways, I remember like every time I would run up the stairs, I was like, oh my God, get me up these fucking stairs. Like there's something behind me. But then later on it progressed into like literally hearing people like run across my hallway, like come down the stairs when I was home alone, like walk into the kitchen, all the cupboards are open, like the TV, you're watching it, the volume goes up, it shuts off, it goes down, it turns on, like just this type of thing would always happen. And then eventually it got to a point where I started seeing them again, like in the hallway. And there was a time where my parents' room was on one end and I was sleeping in my brother's room because I was so scared that night. And then I woke up and like through the doorway, I could see someone standing there.
Oh,
I was
you
like,
were getting rocked by the house.
Yeah, I really was. And then this happened. I actually like ran to my parents' bedroom and ran like through that man, through that ghost, which was like a whole other level of terror that I had never experienced. So I think something clicked at that point where I either just like shut it down because I was like so uncomfortable with it, or they stopped coming because they realized that like I just kept falling into fear. So that was always sort of a thing. And then when I was...
Sorry, one more question on the house.
Yeah.
Do you think that, obviously this was a particularly haunted house, but do you think that like the average person would have had your experience? Or like you...
In that house?
You had a different lens that you were able to see and experience it through?
Both.
Your parents weren't seeing it necessarily.
No, but like my brother was. My sister saw a couple weird things in that same bedroom because when she was born, I went into a different bedroom and my sister went into that room.
Ooh, the room.
It was the room too, right? And like my aunt, for example, slept over one night and then like a couple months later, we were like, oh, you should stick around because they were like having wine with dinner or whatever. And she was like, I'm not sleeping over here. Like
No.
Last time I was here, there was a man in that fucking window and he watched me all night. And we were like, you saw him too? So
okay.
Yeah, it's not just me. And I do think that like definitely some people are more sensitive to these things for sure. But I mean, we all have these experiences to some degree, you know what I mean? Or you have like prophetic dreams, or like everybody is by nature intuitive. So yeah, I think it lends itself to those types of experiences. That kind of stopped after, actually now that I'm thinking about it, it lessened after my parents divorced and we moved to a different house. But even at that house, like I remember waking up one day and my mattress was like off of the box spring, and all of my sheets were like in one corner and my dog was in the other corner just like shaking. And I had like this huge scratch down my chest, and I woke up like all crooked and sideways. And then I just got up and saw my dog and was like, Emma? And then I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And like, my room is all crazy. Yeah, literally contorted. And like, I had a Ouija board in that house and I got rid of that Ouija board so fucking quick. I don't recommend playing with those tools because I feel like there are certain things that have like weird intentions in the creation of them. And I think that the Ouija board is like one of the things that I'm like, I don't fuck with this anymore. Like I did that maybe once or twice and I was like, I'm done here.
Funny you say that. I definitely had one.
Yeah,
and
right?
I would, like, use it in the basement. And like,
exactly.
I'm just thinking about, nope.
And it's like Hasbro creates them now, I think, or whatever.
No, it's
like
so
they're
wrong.
Games for kids. And it's just like, no, like don't use that. Don't play with that. Like I really believe that tarot and astrology is an actual really helpful, intuitive, insightful tool for you to like understand how to actually like navigate your life in a helpful way. And I think that we're all psychic. So those tools amplify our own psychic ability. But like everything, there is, you know, magic, white magic, dark magic, blood magic, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, what are you tapping into and why? And where did that originate from? And I just feel that the Ouija board is not something that I'm like overly impressed by energetically.
Totally.
So that's out of my realm of possibility.
Tools.
Yeah, no longer in my toolbox. But in that house, there was things like the doors would open, or like the toilet paper would just, I remember one time like the roll just started unrolling and the whole thing just unrolled in front of me. And I literally, my sister was there, we were losing it. So like these types of things were probably happening again at like 12 or 13. And at that same time, I bought my first tarot deck. Not that the two were related, because I really don't think that tarot is like a dark tool or anything like that. So I got my first tarot deck, and then I never really understood how to play with it. And then I was in high school and whatever. So there was a lot going on in my life emotionally. At that time, I sort of fell into smoking a lot of weed and kind of like drinking and whatever. And then when I got into college, I went to George Brown College for sign language interpreting, which is where the sign language comes from. I started learning that in high school with some deaf students who were there. And then I applied for the program. I got in and I became an interpreter. And I worked in like the deaf community as a professional interpreter for like at least a decade.
Wow.
So through that experience, and I loved that experience, but I'm such an artist. Like I need to be creating and playing and designing things. And I didn't necessarily have that outlet. So I kind of was like falling into the wrong crowds. I was like still discovering myself. Like there was just a lot happening. And in that experience, I kind of went deeper into like drugs and drinking and just like sex and shopping and just doing whatever I could do to kind of like feel good.
Yeah.
So at one point I kind of like hit my rock bottom and was like, okay, I need to like get some help here. So I went to a clinic, and that is where I met Don, who was my mentor. And it was his last day and my first day at this clinic.
Wow. Also like such a synchronistic moment.
Totally.
That you ended up there, that he was leaving.
Exactly. So I get there and I just like choose Reiki on this menu because I'm like, that's the one thing that is calling my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Had no idea what it was. My first experience, I was like floating and just like everything was like the vibrations, the colors. I was like having this out of body experience. And then basically at the end of it, he was like, it's my last day, but my guides are telling me that I should work with you. So I'm going to give you my card. And if you want to work with me, call me. I was like, okay, whatever. And then like 3 weeks later, I was like, I need to do that again. Like that was so crazy. I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. It just like really opened up like possibilities to like things outside of the world that we live in, like the 3-dimensional.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like I'm a Gemini. I'm curious. I want to play and seek things. So I went, and then basically he became my mentor for the next like 2 or 3 years. And I would go over to his house like twice a week and we'd have breakfast and just like basically meditate, do Reiki. He would teach me tarot. He would open me up psychically and just like on the other side, we have like badges is kind of like the easiest way to describe them. And we all sort of have our own like robes or like almost like a cape type thing. And those robes and capes have markings on them. And those markings allow you access to certain energies, knowledge, power, if that's what you want to call it. And he would basically mark me and then introduce me to these different councils. And then they would judge whether or not I was able to receive that knowledge or receive that type of power, so to speak, so that I could do some of the work with people. And like there's a lot of sort of like energetic systems on the other side to make sure that
I know about this.
Right? So yeah, he brought me through that. And then at that time I fell in love with astrology. I just started like learning astrology on my own. Everyone asks me like, how did you learn? Like I literally watched 1,000 YouTube videos. I just found a bunch of astrologers that I loved. I familiarized myself with the language, how it feels, the interactions of that with the zodiacs and all the elements and stuff like this. And then over time you just understand the language. And then fast forward to COVID. Right before COVID, I left Canada. I was traveling Europe. I started to put all these things online. And then through the lockdown, it just exploded. And then, yeah, I made a bunch of money. And that's when I opened my wellness club in Portugal. And now I'm sitting on this couch talking to you.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, what a wild. I have to also believe that like you came into this world like very spiritually open. You know, like even when you're describing your experience with Reiki, as someone who like so badly wants to have the experience that you described, I just can't. I lay there and I'm like so aware, and I'm sure to some degree like you can learn how to better interact with something like that. I think Reiki is wonderful. But some people I notice, like some of my friends even who aren't even spiritual, but I can just tell that they're so open. You know, they take like a bite of chocolate mushrooms and they're like on the moon.
Yeah.
Whereas I like am lightly feeling it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just.
What's your zodiac sign?
I'm a Leo.
Okay. I wonder where your Mercury is too, because there's a lot of people who are like in the, is it the right side of the mind, the more logic side of the mind? Yeah, like those are the people who, when they get into these experiences, are kind of like, what's happening? I'm not feeling anything. I'm not doing it. And then the logic takes over and it like hijacks the feeling, because like in order for you to actually drop in deeper into the experiences that I'm talking about, you need to be in like a completely almost like dissolved state of just like openness. I'm here, I'm observing, but I'm not like calculating. And as soon as like you're calculating the experience, then it hijacks the whole thing. And a lot of people, especially in North America or like Australia, London, like these places where we're like ingrained to like keep going, keep building, like calculating, compound. Yeah, it's like it's hard for them to get out of that. But I'm sure realistically I could put you on a bit of a program, and like probably after like 3 or 4 weeks, you'd be in a better state to receive it and actually be able to tune into like the subtleties of the Reiki, as opposed to like dropping in and just being like, I was just running down the street in New York. Like, what is this doing to me? You know what I mean? Because New York also has a charge. Like there's areas that have stronger charges that sometimes also impede our experience of like intuition or whatever.
On that same note, you're visiting New York right now for a week, and your home base is Portugal, which is very different.
Yeah.
What do your, if any, do your practices look like when you come into a place like this where you're experiencing so many different people's energy? Like, how do you keep yourself in line?
I mean, I feel like a bit of a hypocrite because I haven't done it the last 3 days, but
we're all human,
right? I'm like, we do what we can.
Yeah.
Anna, actually, who's here, has a really good morning routine. She does her little like energetic aura fluffing and make sure that like her meditation like gets her energy field right. She'll pull a card and sort of like sit and resonate with that for a minute, and then she'll start her day after like equipping herself with crystals and whatnot. And I think that that's a great routine. My routine at the moment looks like wake up, take a shower, like find a bagel and get out the door.
I respect that really much, by the way.
But that's just like, I'm also a bit in vacation mode, you know what I mean? And I think that it's important to also like sometimes just let go of the practice and let go of the of the shit, not for too long because the practices are there for a reason. But yeah, I think my routine at the moment is, it's more about when I'm navigating the city being like, okay, I need to intentionally call my aura, which is like our energy field. I need to intentionally call it in closer, because as it expands, and sometimes it goes up to like 30 feet or, you know, it gets really big, it's constantly taking on information. So in a city like this with so much dense collective consciousness and then all the individual people and everything that's happening, it's like there's a lot. So I'll pull my energy field in, and then I oftentimes will call forward like a group of guides that kind of look like they have pressure washers, and they just like spray me down and just clear off all the shit. And I'll just visualize it running off of my body and sort of into the earth. So like that's sort of like just a thing I do at any moment. But normally in Portugal, and I'm getting really good at this, like I wake up and I do like my stretching, I do dry brushing, and then I jump on my trampoline for like 10 minutes just to get my like lymphatic system moving. Exactly. Like the rebounding is so good. Then I'll drink like my hydrogen water and stand on my acupressure mat and lay on my like.
Oh, you're dialed in
like,
Portugal.
Yeah, like in Portugal, I have a nice routine, and you know what? It works. Like giving yourself an hour in the morning, which I know is difficult for some people, but like, and I say that just because you have kids and you're like maybe a single mother, or like I can get it. You know what I mean? Like I grew up with a mom in that space, and I can't imagine being like, carve out an hour for yourself every morning to do your meditation. Like she'd be like, fuck off. Like I've got things to do.
Totally.
But if you really want to change your life, and if you really want to expand in a new direction, you have to carve out time for those things. You have to, because it's the only way that you can intentionally, energetically shape your experience, which is going to drive a lot of the decisions you're making throughout the day, which is also going to drive the internal storytelling, which is what triggers the emotions and the feelings of everything. So it's like all of that is what's magnetizing your reality into you. So if you're not intentionally carving out time to curate that energetic understanding of who you want to be and where you want to go, then you're just going through the motions of who you were yesterday and last year and the year before. So you're just going to continually get the same results. So by all means, like, if you're happy where you're at, beautiful, and I wish you that. And if you want to change something, like you need to carve out time to like energetically fine tune your energetic experience, and then the physical experience catches up to that eventually.
I could not agree more. I heard a quote somewhere that's like the way you spend the first hour of your day dictates like 100% of the rest of the day.
Totally. Yeah.
And I feel like the morning routine became so TikTok-y and like wellness girly,
consumer driven.
Yeah, and we kind of like lost the plot.
Yeah.
To the point where like I sort of gave up on a morning routine, and I was like, fuck that. Like everybody and their sister is journaling in the morning. Like that's not going to do anything for me. And then actually exactly 60 days ago on Feb 1, I was like, enough. Like I'm waking up late. I'm scrolling on my phone first thing in the morning. I'm letting the world access me before I even access my own body.
Right.
And I was like, I am going to take this back. So I started waking up 30 minutes earlier than I would like to, and it's uncomfortable. But something about showing up for yourself every single day, only you can come save yourself, right?
Totally,
and like that hour of just, even if you're not doing a ton, I do a 20 to 30 minute movement meditation.
Yeah.
And just knowing every day, like even sitting here right now, knowing that like I did that for myself this morning, changes our whole tone.
Absolutely.
And I don't think people necessarily realize it until you push past the resistance and like start to feel the momentum and the benefits, and then you're like, oh,
yeah. And
a lot of
people will give up after like a month or so, and we talk about like new habits form after like 28 days or whatever. But then it's like that's when the seed is planted. Like if you don't water that seed for another 28 days, then it's not going to sprout. And then if you don't water that sprout for another 28 days, it's not going to turn into an actual flower. And then if you keep taking care of that, it'll bloom. You know what I mean? So you're actually looking at like 90 days, 120 days to really create a structure for yourself that is like fully embodied, and you're benefiting from it physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And then from that place, you're like, holy shit, I feel amazing.
Why would I ever not want to do this?
Exactly. And like, I totally hear you with the resistance thing, because I don't even necessarily need to like wake up earlier. I just needed to carve out more time for me to do my thing before I get on like Slack and WhatsApp. And I have like I have 2 companies with probably 40 people. And like, I have people at the top of those companies who run them, but then they have questions for me and they have things moving and they, you know, so it's like, as soon as you open your phone, it's like 100 notifications. And then you're like, I'll just get to one. And then, and this email. And then all of a sudden
Next thing you know, you're shopping on Instagram.
Literally, you're like, it's 10:30. Like, what the fuck have I done with the last 3 hours? So
yeah,
I realize now, after I've been doing my morning routine for probably consistently like, I don't know, 8 weeks or something like that. I like want to do it.
Yes,
I wake up and I'm like, I want to be on that fucking PEMF mat, just like, vibing out with the red light and like chilling. And I feel amazing. And it's good. You really start to actually see the benefit of it. And then you're right. Like that sets the tone for my whole day. And then as I'm moving through my day, I'm just like, I'm less annoyed. I'm less like pulled in all the directions of what the world is trying to pull me in, you know? So it's definitely important.
Yeah. Especially with what you do.
Yeah. Especially for anybody who's like an introvert or like hypersensitive or has any form of like anxiety or depression, anything like that. A morning routine will change your fucking life.
You're describing my whole podcast audience too. Like the sensitives of the world are all here listening. So I'm speaking to you guys. Okay, I want to pick your brain on astrology. Okay. And we talked about this a little bit beforehand of, you know, making sure that this is relevant to when the episode goes live, which we don't have total control over. Mm-hmm. So let's start with overarching 2025 themes and things that are kind of showing up and how people might be able to lean into those different things, be aware of them, just have a better experience.
Okay, so I made some notes here of what I mean, we have limited time here too, right? So I chose like some of the heavy hitters for 2025.
The heavy hitters, I love it.
Right now, we are experiencing a serious historical shift because Neptune is moving into Aries, for example, and this only happens every 165 years. So this has never happened in our lifetime. The last time this happened, I made a list of the things that were happening. This energy really lends itself to revolution. It lends itself to fighting for our dreams, going after our desires, going after the life that we fantasize about, and kind of like unapologetically being like, I'm just gonna fucking do this because I want this for myself. Aries is an energy that's a bit selfish, but I think we're supposed to be selfish in some ways. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you should be selfish with your time in the morning, taking an hour for yourself. Like we should be selfish with making sure, and I struggle with this a lot because I have a lot of planets in Cancer. So I have this very like caretaker energy, but then I also come from a past where there is some trauma woven into whatever experience that has resulted in me needing to constantly give more and more and more or feel comfortable with people taking and taking and taking from me. And I am now realizing that like everything that comes to me is for me first. And although I can provide like money to charities and I can employ people and I can share wisdom or whatever you want to call it. I can talk about, you know, concepts that are supportive for some people. Like at the end of the day, all of this is coming to me and through me and it is for me. So I need to first prioritize my slice of the pie before I'm prioritizing getting it to everybody else and ensuring that everyone else is taken care of and ensuring that all of those priorities are met. But myself, my own priorities are not met. And I think that we just had an eclipse. This was an eclipse in Aries.
End of March.
This eclipse energy was closing out a cycle that was initiated in 2023, I believe. The reason I'm talking about that now is because that was the final eclipse in March, and that energy will radiate out for the next 6 months. So
what does eclipse energy feel like?
So an eclipse, I like to think of the eclipse as like a new moon or a full moon, like on steroids.
Okay.
You don't necessarily set intentions and work with the energy in the same way that you would a new moon or a full moon. However, it's a moment of culmination. It's a moment of results, and it's a moment of deep pivot and change, or at least the awareness of what needs to pivot and change. And a lot of the time, if you were to zoom out, we have eclipses every 6 months. So in between those eclipses, there is 6 months of new moons and full moons.
Got it.
So if you work with the new moon and full moon cycle, when you get to the end of that 6-month cycle, and you've been working with 6 new moons and 6 full moons, sometimes there's a little more or less, doesn't matter. But when you get to the end of that 6-month cycle, the eclipse season is like, okay, you've been setting into motion all of these energies. Things had been building. You've probably been seeing something happening. Now eclipses are like, okay, let's bring all of that energy into a result of some kind, and let's shift you in the direction of those intentions. So a lot happens through eclipse season that's like last minute changes, surprises, breakups, new jobs, I'm moving, I got fired, I got this, I got that. And a lot of us, we're so comfortable in our safety and our comfort zone in the life that we think we want.
Which is sometimes discomfort.
Totally. And people just get used to unhealthy relationships or the job where there's no growth or these old habits or friends or whatever. And our fear-based thinking has us in a state of like, I don't know if I want to let go of this because I don't know if something better is going to come along.
Totally. There's a scarcity.
Absolutely. So if you can work with yourself and sit in that discomfort and release that scarcity and surrender that scarcity and just let the eclipse seasons pivot you in a new direction, then the following 6 months, you are stepping into a new energy and you can create new things. Maybe that 6-month cycle, you do feel a little lonely. You do feel a little, oh God, where am I going to do? What am I going to do for work? Or how am I going to do this or whatever? And that's fine because I think that, and I'm writing a book right now and we're writing about this in the book. I think there is a place for panic. Like we need to pause and sit with the panic because it's scary being human sometimes. Yeah. And if we don't know where our paycheck's coming from, or we don't know if we're going to have love, or we don't know that, then we go into a place of like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Worst case scenario.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, who you are now is a completely different person than who you were when in the past you experienced that same thing. So if you're thinking like, oh my God, I'm going to go through heartbreak or I'm going to lose my job or I'm going to do this, great. I hope so, because that's clearing the way for so much better, more aligned opportunities and connections. But who you are now is a completely different person than who you were the last time you had a heartbreak or the last time you lost your job. And now you have more wisdom, likely more resources or more access to resources. You have the support, you have the ability to bounce back a lot faster. So don't let the fear of how that unfolded last time hinder you from leaning into surrendering it this time, because you will bounce back faster. And if you can trust this process, then the universe or God or your angels or whatever you believe in will bring you the opportunities, because it's like, when you take that step, the path reveals itself. Or when you close your eyes and jump, the universe catches you. Like this is part of the game. So you need that trust. You need to take some calculated risks to move in a new direction. And what is so beautiful about this eclipse that we just had is that this eclipse was a new moon eclipse in Aries. A new moon is a new start, a new chapter. And Aries is about who I am, who we are.
Yeah.
Aries can be a bit jarring. If you think of a motorcycle starting up and that initial like, like a big, like that's Aries energy. It's like, holy shit. It's loud, it's explosive, but then it settles. And then the engine's on and you can ride that bike for 1,000 kilometers or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like, Aries will get you there. Sometimes Aries is a bit jarring. Sometimes Aries is a bit aggressive, but we need that, you know?
What a gift.
It is a gift.
You can't fight with Aries energy.
No, you can't. And like, God bless Anna again, who I keep referring to off screen. She's like one of my co-creators. She's like a best friend of mine and she's a double Aries.
Oh, love.
And I'm a Libra rising.
Me too.
So like we literally were sitting at a restaurant and like the guy came over and she's like, hey, we didn't get that brownie. And I was like, like not even a, hey, excuse me, just a straight up, oh, no. Sorry. It was, how was everything? We ordered a brownie.
No.
And I'm sitting there as a Libra being like, It was
dying
good. It was
inside.
good. Thank you. And the guy's like, a brownie? And she goes, and we didn't get it. And I'm like, but it's okay. I'm like, we don't even need it. And she's like, yes, we do. And I'm like, oh, we do need it. Like, I'm like in this space of like hypervigilance and how to.
Perfect example.
Literally. I'm like, how do I keep the peace? And she's like, how was everything? We didn't get our brownie.
Like bad.
And I'm
it was
like,
bad.
yeah, like incomplete, no brownie. And I'm just like, the audacity of being able to like walk into a restaurant and they're like, ma'am, please wait here. And she's like, oh, I'm going to sit right over there. And it's like, oh my God. Like, but there's this energy of like, no, don't tell me what to do. I'm good. I'm going to go right there. And she can still manage that with care and manage that consciously. Like she's an extremely conscious individual. But I see these moments of that like impulsive little inner child pop up and it's just like, I wanted my brownie, please. And it's like, as a Libra, and we've all experienced this because that Aries eclipse that we just went through, the opposite sign is Libra. So the last 2 years, we've been having eclipses in Aries and Libra. And the North Node in Aries has been teaching us how to walk into a place and be like, that's where I want to be. I want to sit right there. I didn't get my brownie yet. Oh, everything was okay, but you forgot one thing. It's like the direction we're moving in, the North Node, that's our destiny, our fate. We are all being called into that Aries energy. And the most recent new moon eclipse in Aries that we just had initiates this 6-month cycle. So we are being called to step into owning what we want so that we can actually get what we want and we can create the life that we desire. On the opposite end of the spectrum is me at the brownie table being like, no, we're fine. Everything's okay. But it's like, I want the fucking brownie.
Yes.
But my Libra is being like, oh, sorry, you made a mistake. And we're all dealing with this because the South Node was in Libra. So this is a collective experience.
Interesting.
So collectively, we are all being called to step into our Aries energy, to fight for what we want. And collectively, we have all been called to release the self-sacrifice or release the, oh, I do want my brownie, but you forgot about it. And I don't want to say that you forgot about it because you're going to feel like you're not doing your job well. And like now I'm trying to micromanage this experience so you don't feel bad. So it's okay. We don't even need the brownie. And it's like, I want that fucking brownie.
Bro, you paid for the brownie.
And I literally prepaid for it. Like, where's my fucking brownie? And then you have the Aries sitting there who's like, we do want it, actually.
Like, we'll actually take an extra one for the inconvenience.
Right? And you were wrong, so we'll take 2. And it's like, that is honestly, with so much love, the direction we all need to move in, which is like, if you want the brownie, ask for the brownie. Don't do the Libra thing. South Node in Libra, collectively, we're all letting go of the like, oh, is it okay? Don't mind. I'm sorry. Like, and I have a Libra rising, as I said, so do you. So like, we are constantly in this balance of like, where do I fit in this equation in a way that makes everyone happy? And if we feel like it's going to be a burden or that others are not going to be able to enjoy themselves or that they're going to have to compromise, then collectively what we've been noticing is that a lot of us, we self-sacrifice our own needs and we keep the peace. And I'm fucking done keeping the peace when I'm not at peace internally.
100%. Like, who are you doing it for then?
Exactly, because we keep ourselves out of the equation. Aries is not removing themselves from the equation. Aries is the equation. Like, and sometimes too much so, but that's okay because we all have, you know, our shit. And I would rather be advocating for myself too much than not at all. And this outdated way of sacrificing our like self-advocacy is what needs to go. And that's what the last 2 years have been teaching us, how we self-sacrifice in relationships, our values, our money, our relationship to the world around us. Like all of these things have been changing. So to bring that forward, what's really beautiful is that around the same time as this Aries eclipse that we just had, and we're working with this energy for the next 6 months.
So till end of September.
Even honestly after that, because like you'll have different perspectives from different astrologers, but like everything is energy. There is no hard start and hard stop. Everything is fluid and overlapping and flowing into the next thing. So I always look at something like a new moon as like it's an initiation of a vibration, and that vibration is now in you. So technically you're working with that forever. You know what I mean? However, there will be another new moon in Aries, so the vibration would be refined at that point. But like, regardless, we're still working with this energy. So yeah, you could say until September, you could say until the end of the year, you could say you're working with this for the rest of your life, as you should, because you should be advocating for yourself for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
what's really cool about that same time is we had these kazimis take place. And a kazimi is when a planet is conjunct the sun. So a conjunction is together.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the sun, and then you have a planet approaching the sun, and that's sort of like building a lot of heat. That is like a lot of things bubbling up, a lot of issues, fears, insecurities. Drama is getting very loud in a relationship or whatever. Once the planet is conjunct with the sun, it is said to be combust. So it kind of just like burns everything up. So it's like a release of that karma. It's a shift of that perspective. It's letting go and surrendering the old version of that energy so that planet can be reborn. So what was so amazing about this most recent new moon eclipse in Aries is that a new moon is a new cycle. Aries is about us showing up in a new way. Right around that same time, we had a Saturn kazimi. So Saturn rules our daddy issues. So a lot of us clearing out shit from the past that's related to unhealthy masculine love or lack thereof. Saturn rules habits and our investments of time, energy, and money. So understanding that where we put our energy, we get a result. Mm-hmm. What is that result? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Saturn also rules karma and time. So where's your time going? Are you liking where your time is going? Are you getting a good result for where your time is going? It also was burning up a lot of the karma from our past. So a lot of the karmic debts have been paid off. We also had a Venus kazimi. Now, what's really interesting about this is that Libra is ruled by Venus. Mm-hmm. And we just talked about how Libra, for the last 2 years, the South Node in Libra, the eclipses in Libra, were teaching all of us about relationships and how to show up better in relationships, how to advocate for what we need in relationships. And this is business, collaborations, friends, family, everything. So like, as we were going through that learning experience, we sort of come to the end of that learning experience where hopefully there has been some insight over the last 2 years around what you really want in your relationships and how you relate to the world around you. Because it's not just like interpersonal relationships. Venus is also like my relationship to coffee, my relationship to sex, my relationship to expression, my relationship to money, like all of these things. So all of this has been changing. We had 2 years of learning. At the end of that 2-year cycle, this eclipse cycle closed. Mm-hmm. So that 2-year period closed just at the end of March. The new moon in Aries eclipse is what closed that cycle. That's what we're working with, like we said, for the next 6 months plus.
Yep.
We had all of that learning with the Libra and the relationships and our values. And around that eclipse, we also had a Venus kazimi. So a Venus kazimi happened when Venus was in retrograde, and Venus was like, wait a second. I don't like who I've been in relationships, or I don't like who I've been with in relationships. I don't like how, again, I'm self-sacrificing my own needs, my own desires. Maybe you're recognizing that in your relationships, work, love, friends, you're assigning roles to people who do not have the capacity to meet your needs. And maybe that is a response from childhood because your needs went unmet. Maybe you needed something in an early relationship and somebody was like, oh, you're so needy, or you're so this, or you're too much.
And you never forgot it.
And you never fucking forgot it. So what happens is you have some visceral reaction. You all of a sudden have this like emotional response in the body. Oh my God, I'm too much. You label yourself as too much and you carry that you're too much through how many years?
Yeah.
So if you're too much, you're not going to say what you need. If you're too much, you're not going to share with your partner your deepest desires. Sexually, your deepest desires for safety and intimacy, your deepest desires for the money that you want to make. You're not going to say to your clients, I actually increased my prices. No, because you're sitting there thinking, I'm too much. Oh my God, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Exactly, watering ourselves down. So this is what we're getting the fuck away from, which is so amazing.
Wow.
And as we enter this new moon in Aries eclipse, we are opening a new chapter of who we are. And that chapter no longer includes the South Node in Libra, these old relationships. The Venus Cazimi has us being like, fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to show up differently in my relationships. And that allows us to create new structures and foundations, which is like that Saturn Cazimi. The other thing that happened at the same time was that Mercury had a Cazimi. So our mind, our perspective, the way we communicate and what we communicate is also going through a reset. And the one that I really like is Neptune Cazimi. This was like the rose-colored glasses being peeled off and being
When
like,
was
this all literally, I don't have the exact dates, but I would say it all happened in probably the same 2 weeks.
Is that rare to have this many Cazimis
Yeah.
at a time? I mean,
Yeah,
sounds
especially at an
explosive.
eclipse. Especially at an eclipse, especially right before Neptune enters Aries, which is something that only happens every 165 years. Like, this is a pivotal moment.
Wow.
2025 is literally allowing you to reset your entire being, because who you are moving forward needs to be a different version than who you were that got you up to this point. And that is part of the karma that we're releasing. Now, what's interesting is that this is not just an internal revolution. Everything I just talked about is us creating a new version of ourselves. So there's an internal revolution happening. Then we get into the rest of the year, which is like a huge shift, and it welcomes a new era, because the majority, if not all, of the outer planets, the slow-moving collective planets, they are all changing signs. So we talked about Neptune and Aries. The last time this happened was 1861 to 1875. This was the beginning of the American Civil War. So buckle the fuck up, America.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And I love that. Not in the sense that I think there should be bloodshed, because that's just like, it's 2025. Like, can we just talk about these things and figure it out? But consciously, we're not there yet. So the possibility of a like civil uprising to fight for what we believe in, which is us going after a new world that includes everybody and is not designed for the small few, like that is the direction that we're moving in.
By the way, my psychic said that too.
Oh, yeah?
Just putting it out there.
Yeah. I think there's a difference between empowering people and like fear-based conversation, but to not create fear and to just have people properly preparing themselves. Like, I would say that like, it's a really good time to make sure that you're good, you know, that you're safe, that you've like got your ducks in a row. Like, we don't need to get into like apocalyptic, like conspiracy theories and prepping. But like, I did just buy a farm in the south of Portugal with a well and some solar panels.
Honestly,
and
high value right now.
like, for real. So whatever you can do to prepare yourself, because I think towards the end of the year and next year, we're likely to enter a lot of high drama. And I say that because the conscious awakening, the collective awakening that's happening right now, unfortunately is not happening at the speed that it needs to for us to be able to keep ourselves on a high vibrational course. And I think that the powers that be and certain influences energetically are going to create high drama so that we can really see how out of alignment we are, so that we can find deeper alignment. So when the pendulum swings in one direction, and that might be chaos and whatever, war, whatever it is, it's to turn up the volume on what's not working.
Yes.
So that we can swing in the other direction and recalibrate in a more aligned way, right? So, Neptune and Aries, it invites civil war. Like, quite literally, it happened. It was also the Emancipation Proclamation, so the end of slavery. And I do that with air quotes for those of you who aren't watching, because the slavery conversation is a whole other conversation. Yeah. This is also the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. The German Empire was founded. There was also like transatlantic telegraph cable. that was completed. So this was the first time that you could communicate between Europe and North America. The typewriter was invented. The prototype was invented. So like a step towards like the printing press and sharing news and information on print worldwide. And then what kind of makes me a bit uncomfortable with this transit is that the Gatling gun was also invented. Now, the Gatling gun was used in the American Civil War, I believe, and it was like the precursor to the assault rifle or the machine gun or something like this. Yeah. I believe it's the machine gun. It was like a gun that you could shoot bullets with fast. So we are now entering a time where I believe it's like a 13-year cycle. It's a 14-year cycle. So for the next 14 years, and I actually just saw this on like TikTok. It was terrifying. There was like a crowd of people. And then all of a sudden, they all just spread and started freaking out. And they were hit with this like sound, this sonic sound wave that like made them all feel like they were burning. And they were like running. So the idea of like weapons being developed at a whole new level is fucking terrifying. Wow. Especially because we now have Pluto and Aquarius, which lends itself to like innovation and power struggles and things like that. We wouldn't have thought of. Yeah. Yeah. But what's beautiful, and again, I always like to empower people, like Pluto and Aquarius is also power to the people because Aquarius rules the people and the collective and revolting against the things that don't work and recreating systems and reinventing the way we do things. So it's really sort of like Aquarius loves to understand something and then completely tear it apart and rebuild it in a better way that is more inclusive for everybody.
Which is what needs to happen collectively.
Exactly. And that is what's happening collectively. Yeah. You're seeing patterns of that already showing up. And now Neptune enters Aries. It's like, okay, that mixed with like Civil War energy, like we're going to have people who are like, fuck this. I'm ready to fight for all of these minority groups. I'm ready to support the fellow man or woman or whatever you identify as. You know what I mean? So it's a really powerful time. Okay, the last few, because I also, what are we looking like for time? We're good?
We got a couple minutes.
We have Saturn moving into Aries. And this is going to happen the end of May. Let me see if I can get an exact date here. It looks like around
There's a lot of Aries happening.
Yeah. So this is around the 27th or 28th of May. Saturn moves into Aries. Aries, like I said, wants to burn things down and rebuild them, and it wants to scream at the top of its lungs, and it wants to be here and be present. So when you combine Aries with Saturn, which is structures, it could be a lot of structures falling, for example. What's also interesting is that Pluto, I believe, has like a 250-year cycle, and that is related to the fall of empires. Pluto is experiencing his return. So he has completed a 250-year cycle. And that return, I believe, coincides with the birth of America. So like the rise and fall of empires is signaled by a Pluto return. And that is happening right now. That is also happening at the same time as America's birthday and also happening at the same time as all these other things we're talking about. So we're about to look at a lot of political and power shifts or power shifts, if that makes sense. Whatever. You understand what I'm saying.
Yep.
So again, not to create fear, but to empower people to be like, cool, if these systems are crumbling or breaking down, then how can I rebuild a new system? You know what I mean? So Aries is about taking action and Saturn is about building. So
the rebirth, if you
literally
have the lens to view it that way and not out of fear, which I think is what really people need to take into this season.
Absolutely. And people need to also understand that, like, yes, it is scary because our ego wants to hold on to things. We like comfort, et cetera, et cetera. But the deeper we can lean into surrender, the deeper you can lean into trust, the faster you will flow down the path of least resistance, and your guides will fucking bring you into aligned connection and opportunity to make sure that you are safe and stable. But you can't do that when you're holding on to everything because
resisting, fear-filled.
Exactly. Like you can't live in a state of flow if you're resisting the release of things and in turn creating friction over and over and over again. You know what I mean? So this is why I mean, I have so many resources on my website and on my Instagram, but like this is why I do the like monthly readings so people can get a bit of insight as to how to navigate. This is why we do like the new moon workshops, the full moon workshops, so that people can understand how to work with that energy. And these are all like pay what you can things, you know? It's like I don't charge $100 for a workshop. It's like you could pay $1. And the reason is because I want people to access it. I want people to access this knowledge at an accessible price. And it's like a 20-minute thing where you sit there and you're like, wow, that's what's happening. Okay, cool. Let me figure out how to just navigate these next 2 weeks until I get to the full moon. And then I'll go from there. And to bring people through a state of like consciously curating their life by practicing non-attachment and not being fearful while floating through transition is the only way you're going to comfortably survive the next couple years. So like, we really need to lean into that. And what's interesting is that Saturn is also the brakes. It's like pump the fucking brakes, and Aries is the gas pedal. So we're going to be in this state of like,
stop, start.
Yeah, and you need to shift into low gear. You can't with Saturn and Aries go full steam ahead.
Right.
Mars and Aries go full steam ahead. It's fucking fast. And like Saturn is like, slow down. Like you don't have to be so impulsive. You don't have to do all these things today. You might not even want to do half these things if you really think about it, you know? So how is it that you can just apply the brakes a little bit? That'll be happening around end of May. In June, we have Jupiter entering Cancer, which is amazing for us building our new home, our new sense of security, redefining what we need to feel emotionally safe in relationships. Watch out for overeating or comfort eating for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah. And we may find that we have a bit of an attachment to things that aren't great for us because Cancer, once those claws are on, it's like, this is mine. I'm never letting you go. And sometimes those things, those habits, those people are not necessarily good for us. But Cancer's like, I just can't let go. I just can't let go. You know what I mean? So, yeah, trying to redefine your relationship to attachment is going to be really important around June. In early July, we have Uranus entering Gemini. And this, again, is revolution. This is revolutionary thought. So we're going to start thinking outside of the box. We're going to be communicating in new ways. I believe the last time this happened, we also had the American Revolution and we had radio and television explode.
Whoa.
So new ways of communicating. This could also lend itself to a lot of misinformation. I wouldn't be surprised if like AI was used with like deep fake technology and just all of this sort of shit to like confuse people. So this is why it's so important to have those morning practices, to do workshops and things that support you connecting deeper with your own intuition so that you can understand how to navigate, because we are entering an era of even more information overload, and a lot of that is not good information. You know what I mean? So we need to be able to decipher what really resonates with us and what doesn't. And you're going to find that the same thing happened with the last pandemic and, you know, time and time before that. They use fear to control the masses.
100%.
So you need to have enough trust within yourself to understand that like you're going to be okay. You have the tools and the capacity to manage these things, and you can trust and honor your inner self, knowing what you need to do and not be forced in any direction by these external influences. I would not be surprised if we have like a fake alien attack or some type of like perceived otherworldly contact that turns into like, oh my God, this is really bad. Everybody has to stay home. And this is that, like, I would like this type of thing for sure at some point is going to happen. Also,
but we've now seen it before with COVID, right? So we have this experience where we've collected data. We know what's up. We also all coming out of that have a different level of resilience.
Totally.
Like, whoa, I was in my apartment in New York City for 3 months without seeing a soul. Like, I can kind of do anything.
Right.
So all this to say, 2025 is sort of a buckle up, but it's also like this beautiful opportunity for rebuilding and focusing on ourselves. And to what you were saying, like the morning routine, those little moments, like they matter more than ever, right? Our intuition and our gut and our inner strength is like as important as it's ever been.
And community, like Pluto and Aquarius lends itself to connection and community and the power that comes from community. And like I was hosting a retreat a couple weeks ago. Anna was also in that retreat. And we were talking about yesterday on the podcast we were doing around like the book that I'm writing and the behind the scenes stuff. And being witnessed by other people in your own process allows you to process even faster. It allows you to communicate to somebody else who can receive that and can say, I hear you. And I'm also fucking scared sometimes. And let's move through this scared together, you know? And I think that that's what's so beautiful about like the online community that I'm building, especially like I always say to people under the full moon workshops, like, what are you going through right now? Put it in the comments. Yeah. And I see all of the different community members interacting with each other, being like, oh, I'm getting this too. And this is what's happening to me. And it like
becomes a shared experience rather than something shameful or to be embarrassed of.
Exactly. And it allows you to be like, true, other people are going through this. And what COVID did to our psyche around separation and isolation, it created this whole new concept that like we are just a burden to other people and that we are dangerous to other people and that we shouldn't be around other people. Like that's really the conditioning that happened. So like for us to now rewild ourselves and reconnect with the part of us that wants to be witnessed by community in our pain and in our joy is such a necessary part to this experience. And the louder the drama gets and the more it tries to separate us, the more we have to lean into deeper connection, because that is the only medicine to what we're going to be going through. I think that's really, Uranus and Gemini is really the last thing that I have on here. This is an era. Like if you think about an era, like this is a big fucking moment. So the astrology this year is a little crazy, but it's great. It's revolutionary. Internal in our own lives, in our own habits, our own behaviors, how we see ourselves. And then that means we show up differently, which in turn creates an external revolution. And this is actually an invitation for us to rebuild this very fucked up world that we live in. And I invite people, and this is, again, what's so beautiful about my friendship with Anna and Daniela and a couple other people in my life, like Liza. It's just like being able to drop into intentionally curated spaces of joy and play is so required, because life gets dense. And I swear to God, every time this girl pulls out bubbles and just blows them, I'm like, oh my God, bubbles. Like, it's so true. Like, why aren't we all playing with bubbles? Why
aren't we playing like kids?
Right?
Yeah.
So now I have like bubbles all over my house, and just like randomly in the morning, I'll just blow them. And I'm just like, this is so cute. Yeah. Like, we need to carve out spaces for that, because again, things are going to get loud and dramatic, and that's by design. But like, don't fall for the fucking trap, you know? Like, we're still autonomous, creative, amazing individuals, and there's so much joy and play available to us. So we just really need to choose what we want to focus on. And that Saturn Kazemi was teaching us about containment, because Saturn rules containment. And this is like a whole chart, or a whole part of a whole chapter maybe of the book that I'm writing, is like, what are you containing? Are you containing your fear so you can live in more joy? Or are you letting fear contain your joy so you can continue to live in fear? Ooh. It's like, those are the only two. Like, you can't have both. They can't both be expansive at the same time. Like, you don't have enough time, energy, or attention to be able to be like, I'm equally as fearful as I am happy. It's like, no, like pick one, you know? So yeah, what are you containing is going to be a big thing for us this year.
When can we expect your book to come out?
I think the book is slated to come out next summer. The manuscript is due on Lionsgate 8/8.
Love.
Yeah, they were like, let's do mid-August. I'm like, let's do 8/8. They were like,
my
okay.
Aries energy says 8/8.
Right. So yeah, we're gonna submit the manuscript in a couple months.
Right.
It's an amazing book. It's just like, it's a toolkit. It's for people to learn about their psychological programming that influences their emotions, that are tied to the energetics, and how all of that has created a life that maybe they don't necessarily love. Maybe they like parts of it, but they don't like all of it. And some of that is because their life has been designed by an external influence. So I want people to just understand how they got to where they're at and the mechanics behind that, and then use those same mechanics to create the life that they do want. And there's different modules that help with somatic practices, with energetic practices, with shadow work and clearing and all this sort of stuff. And it'll really help you realign yourself with what you deserve and desire. And then a lot of these modules have like a QR code that brings you to an online learning section. So then there's like workshops and all this other stuff that you can build out to go even deeper. And It's cool. It's a really cool process. I'm writing it with Penguin Publishing, or sorry, with Hay House Publishing. They've just been acquired by Penguin. So now that's great because we have even more reach.
Beautiful.
And yeah, it's just a really cool process. We met Rachel, the ghostwriter. She's like, also, I'm like, you're not going to be a ghostwriter. You're going to be on this fucking couch with me and we're all going to talk. Because I'm also trying to just be transparent about that process. Like, I'm not going to sit here and write a 500-page book. I'm running 2 companies. I'm filming content all fucking day. Like, what, you expect me to have 40 hours a week to also write a book? Fuck off. No. So we're being really transparent about that process. Anna and I come up with the ideas that we think would be supportive for people. She helps me build out a framework. She gives me the bullet points. I drop into a space like this. I channel and just communicate about those points and what to do. And then our writer takes all of that, transcribes it, and puts it into a book for me.
That's
so
incredible.
It's fucking amazing. I'm like, yeah, I have a ghostwriter. It's amazing.
Hell yeah, you do.
Fuck right. Like, and like Rachel is like Queen Rachel. Oh my God, this woman is so quirky. She lives in Chelsea and she's just like, she's just a vibe. She really is the star of the show. So
the irony of her being a ghostwriter.
Literally. And I'm like, no, girl, you're going to be front row, front stage, center. Like, I need you as part of the team because she's also a mother and she's a little bit older than us. And she's just got like such a quirky, she's a Gemini. So she's like, she's here and then she's there. And then she's, wait, what about that? Different. And I'm just like, I love watching you process because you are like externally what I am internally. So like, I totally get it.
Yes.
And we actually had one of my astrologers like do our charts together and we have like past lives and like where my Mercury, which is my communication, where my Mercury lands is like right on her like point of like writing and publishing it. Like it's just so perfect. And she's a fucking blast. So I'm also trying to figure out how we can get her like more on camera so that we can have just like a bit of a reality show behind the scenes thing. We're going to be very open about this whole book process and taking audience questions and running through some of the workshops before the book comes out just to see people's vibes and refine things. So it's a cool process. But yeah, I've had a couple people be like, oh, why do you have a writer?
Like, please.
Bitch, because they offered me one. And I said, yeah, I'll take the help.
An
like,
amazing concept from what I'm hearing.
Exactly. I'm like, it's still me. Plus, we also get the copy. I get to feedback it, refine it. I can add whatever I want, which I do. You know, it's not like she's not just writing a book and calling it Chris. Like, it's me. I'm doing the fucking book. I'm just not like writing every word of it on the computer. So like,
doesn't have time for that.
Sorry guys, got a couple things on the go. It's like, whatever. But yeah, it's a cool book.
Incredible. Okay, so Chris, where can people, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of people asking how they can access you, whether that's Instagram, your courses, your space in Portugal. Give us all the places.
Yeah, so if you're ever in Portugal, visit us in Lisbon. It is called Wheelhouse, and it is a social wellness club. We have a cafe and a co-working space. There's a tea lounge. There's this insane Himalayan salt cave with like a halo generator that detoxifies your body and grounds your energy, and it's just amazing. And then we have a treatment room, and in the back we have like a whole workshop space for live learning, dancing, like everything. It's like seriously phenomenal. People walk in and just cry. They're just like,
insane.
It is insane. Like aesthetically, it's like I poured like over $1 million into it. So when you walk in there, you're like, holy shit. Like everything is like handmade and curated and just like beautiful.
No corners were cut.
Zero.
I got to pop by this summer.
You have to. And like, we actually intentionally tried to remove as many corners as possible. So everything is like curved and like, it's actually a really nice, flowy, warm, earthy vibe. There's like crystals under the floors. Like it's fucking phenomenal.
You're like, we actually have no corners to be cut.
Right? We tried. And actually what's funny is that my architect, she designed this shelf. And then later, one of my friends who's an astrologer was there and he was like, I love the Libra symbol. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, your shelf is a Libra glyph. And it literally is like the curved Libra glyph and it all glows. And I have a Libra rising.
Yeah.
And that wheelhouse, that project is Wheelhouse Air. So Air is Libra. And Libra is about community and connection and technology. From the back room, we can stream live. So you can do a workshop and stream it to your audience. Like it's amazing.
Wow.
And then I have other projects coming down the pipeline for like earth and water and fire. Like I want to build this out as a whole series. But yeah, Wheelhouse is phenomenal. So come check that out. And then for everything digital, it's just chriscorsini.com. My last name is Corsini. And my Instagram is Chris Corsini. Everything on there is astrology based, psychic based. There's some comedy stuff. I also have some music and entertainment, and I create stuff with deaf people, and we're leaning more into that side of things. My podcast is Middle Ground. We are currently redoing the format of it, so we'll have more episodes uploaded, but there are some episodes on there that are timeless, so you can go on and listen to different things to help yourself. What is that? Did I miss anything? Wheelhouse, Instagram, website. That's pretty much it. Yeah, Middle Child is my music stuff. Yeah, whatever. I'll tag it with you. We can like collaborate on this, and yeah, it'll be super easy to find it. But what I really like about everything is that, like, if you liked this conversation, I try to keep things linguistically accessible as well, not just like financially accessible. So, and accessible, I guess that's also linguistically. But what I mean is, like, the majority of stuff that we do, there's either an interpreter present, or I'm using simultaneous communication, so deaf people can also engage. Everything is captioned. If you guys are making content, you should also caption it and, you know, transcribe things so that the deaf community can also entertain it and use it. I don't teach sign language. You should always learn sign language from deaf people, so just keep that in mind. Don't ask me to teach you because I'm not going to do it. But then financially, the majority of our stuff is pay what you can, or it's on a sliding scale. And then the language, like the actual language I use, I try to always tell you, you know, like Saturn is Cazimi the sun, and if you know what that means, great. But if you don't, this is how you can apply that.
I appreciate that. You make it very digestible, because sometimes those words or like any astrology lingo can kind of like
overwhelm you.
If you don't get it, you can become easily overwhelmed and or just like close your brain off unintentionally.
Totally. And a lot of people use like, there's a sextile Cazimi the sun today in the 9th house of, and you're like, fuck off. Like, you're so cool. You know all the language. Like nobody thinks you're cool.
Different. It's like you're speaking Spanish to me.
Literally. You know? And then what happens is people who are watching feel stupid, or they feel disempowered, or they're just like, this is so like word jumble. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then they just unplug. And I'm like, the reason I channel and the reason I have these conversations is because I want people to apply the information. So I'm not going to sit here and try to impress you with my language. I'm just going to be like, the Saturn and the sun came together. Clear your daddy issues. You know, it's like, fuck, move on. Like, so yeah, everything is also accessible and digestible in that way. And that's what's really interesting about this book too, is that they were like, so we were thinking for like the intro pages or whatever it's called, like the intro to the author that we would do. But I'm like, the intro to the author is going to be like, my name's Chris, good luck with the book, move on. Like, everything in the book is also like boom, 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 done. Yeah, just, it's not a memoir, you know? It's like, get in, every chapter you open is like quick, direct, to the point. It's going to be helpful. And if you don't resonate with it, pick another chapter and, you know, or gift it to a friend, do whatever. But everything I try to do is just like clean, fast, accessible. You can afford it.
And like egoless.
And egoless, yeah.
Anyway,
like,
here's the book. It's not about like me talking about me.
Yeah, like I told my team twice, I'm like, if you want to like really get into my story, like let's do a memoir one day. Like memoir of a gay.
That's so good.
But yeah, I'm like, we can do that another time. Like, people aren't coming here to like learn about my childhood trauma, you know? Like, they want to know how to fix their fucking lives. So, or if you love your life, how to expand it and make it even better. I think a lot of the conversations we have do tend to fall into the side of like, our life sucks and we need to rebuild this and blah, blah, blah. And that's just, again, human nature, always kind of focusing on like the negative things, because that's how we keep ourselves safe. But I also want to just say, like, if you're out there and you're experiencing joy and you're experiencing abundance and you're experiencing wealth of health or knowledge or whatever happiness you're in right now, like, that's also amazing. And everything that I have will just support you in expanding more of that. It's not just about cleaning up your life, you know? So I think we need to also intentionally curate more times and maybe more chapters on like focusing on how to, she's like writing that down in our thing right now. How to support people who are in joy, because
people struggle with that. Like, not to get into a whole other segue, because I know we need to go, but like people struggle supporting people that are in joy, abundance, happiness, love, all of that. Sometimes. Absolutely. Not everyone, of course, but.
No, and this is why people wear like the little chili peppers or the little evil eyes, or you wear certain stones to
the
protect
chili
you.
pepper is like an evil eye.
They're
very chic.
Like, I know, yeah, the chili pepper for sure. Anna, do you know where the chili pepper's from? Oh, is it Italian? But there's like a little one that I think they use it in like Hispanic.
Is it the horn that looks like a chili pepper?
No, one second. It's definitely a little chili pepper. A luck charm?
Julia might know.
Chili peppers have long been used in folk magic and traditional practices as a powerful tool for protection, banishing, and energetic defense. Their fiery, sharp nature makes them ideal for burning through negative energies or unwanted attachments. Yeah, so
I feel like I want a chili pepper. That's kind of a vibe.
People hang dried chili peppers by their door. They do this in Italy and other European countries. You can add chili and salt in a jar and leave it in a space. I would leave it with the lid off. You could sprinkle it around your property. You can add it as a protection oil, or you could burn it with caution and let the smoke act as an incense in your space to clear out any unwanted energies. But yeah, the point that I'm getting at is like and Anna always says this when I say something good. What is it? Mashallah. Mashallah. Which is like, protect that. Like, protect that. Like, that's yours. I'm like, oh my God, I've like fell in love. She's like, mashallah, mashallah. And it's like,
for you.
Keep that, like, protect that. And I think that when people are in joy right now, because there is so much struggle, and this is, just the last thing that's really important about that South Node in Libra that we're walking away from is like, Libra wants to connect with people so people feel heard. But Libra will also drop into experiencing pain with those people and not permit themselves to leave that pain and experience joy because they feel bad being like, well, I shouldn't be happy if you're not happy. So this is also what we're collectively walking away from. If you have a sister or a brother who's really struggling, or if you are witnessing certain communities really struggle with things, and that's very fucking real, that does not mean that you have to sacrifice your own joy to be in their despair as a means of connecting with them. You don't have to do that anymore. And I think that we've been wired to think we do, that we don't care if I'm happy, but there's a genocide happening around the world, or if I'm experiencing one thing and, the Black queer community is experiencing some type of very serious struggle, or the trans community, or whatever they're going through. It's like, I see you and I will do what I can with the resources I have to support you. And I actively do that. And I'm still allowed to experience my own moments of joy and expansion, even if others are suffering. So yeah, I think that's a really important permission slip to give people, especially for the direction that we're moving in as a collective, because there's going to be, as I mentioned, more high drama. There's going to be more pain and suffering, and that's inevitable as a human. But like joy and creativity and, safe sexuality and all these sorts of things, like they are also supposed to be experienced. And I want you to give yourself permission to do that, even if you feel like you can't, because others maybe can't experience that at the moment,
We're all having our own individual experience. And I think that's really important to remember, even if you're someone who's deeply empathetic and affected by what other people are going through.
Yeah. And that's why when you fall into those moments of joy, hold that, like, mashallah, and like wear your little pepper and wear your little evil eye and just like protect that, because unconsciously other people will see that. And even if they're not consciously sending you like jealousy or juju or whatever it is, it's like, it's there, So this is why it's important for us to have our morning routine. We circle back, like your morning practice, clear your energy, protect your space, protect your joy, and then move through life as best you can.
Beautiful. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. I could talk to you all day.
Yeah, I could clearly talk all day too. I'm a Gemini. I'm like, we could keep going.
We'll have to do this again once like this Aries eclipse energy has ended and like, the kind of the aftermath of that and like what's next, because I'm sure people are going to be curious.
Yeah, I think we'll be back probably, I don't know, for sure within the year, because we need to come back to organize a bunch of this book stuff too. So whenever we're back in town.
Chelsea, so you got to come back.
Rachel's in Chelsea, yeah.
Not going anywhere.
Her. And you know what? I'm bringing Rachel on this fucking show, yeah.
Bring Rachel next time.
We will. Like, I swear to God, I was watching like some clips of us yesterday and I'm like, this woman is a star. Like, she's just such a quirky little gem. Like I love her. So we'll bring her for your audience to experience
Please.
as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so fun. So cool.
Yay.
Ciao.